Here there are some MCQs to be discussed. So before that, let us uh, revise that chapter first. So before getting into MCQs, so first thing is concept of elasticity. So elasticity is property of body by virtue of which it has tendency to regain its original shape and size. So that's why we call it as elasticity. So when force is applied on a body, the body may get deformed. So if it gets deformed, the force that is producing deformation is called deforming forces. So when deforming force is removed, then the body has tendency to regain original shape and size. So that property can be called as elasticity. So if the body can regain original shape and size, then the deformation produced is called elastic deformation. So all bodies are elastic to some extent. Their dimensions can be changed by pulling apart, twisting, or by compressing. So elasticity is observed in all materials. There is no restriction on it. So for each and every material, elasticity can be seen. So elastic property of the materials is purely due to the intermolecular forces. These intermolecular forces act like spring forces. They act like spring forces. So because of this spring force action, so they behave as elastic materials. So elastic property is due to intermolecular forces. There will be restoring force. So we come across the concept of stress and strain in elasticity. Stress means it is restoring force per unit area. Stress is restoring force per unit area, whereas strain is change in dimension to original dimensions. This dimension which changes can be it can be length, volume, or anything. So depending on what dimensions change, stress and strain can be of three kinds: longitudinal stress and longitudinal strain. So here the stress is tending to increase or decrease length. Then we have bulk and shear stress and strain. So bulk means here it has tendency to change volume. Shear means it will tend to change shape. So longitudinal stress is normal force per unit area. Volume stress is nothing but pressure. So this is tangential force per unit area. Coming to strain, so it is change in length divided by original length, delta L by L. So here it is delta V by V and tangential force per unit area. So this will be tangential force F divided by A divided by strain will be given by X by L. So this will be strain. Just make a note of it. Yes. So as I told you, every object has tendency to regain its original shape and size once deforming forces will be removed. So if no tendency is there, then we call that property as plasticity, and such substances are called plastic materials. So the deformation done will be permanent. Deformation means change in shape or size. Deformation means change in shape or size, right? Now, the first thing is, why do we need to study the elastic behavior of solids? So it plays very important role in engineering and design. So for what purpose, what kind of material should be used, what should be its properties? So these things can be understood only on study of elastic properties of materials. That's why this becomes very important, not only in engineering, it is also in the design of vehicles like bridges, aeroplanes, automobiles, ropeways. So entire engineering is based on this only. So we should know the elastic properties of the materials involved, like steel, concrete, and other things that we use in the construction. Right. This was what I was told about. So every intermolecular force acts like spring ball system. So each ball here is a atom or molecule, and each spring is a bond. So if you displace any one of the object here, the other springs will pull it back. So there will be a restoring force. So because of which materials behave like elastic, right? No need to take this. So coming to stress and strain. So stress is restoring force per unit area. It is measured in Newton per meter square or Pascal. So types of stress, this is what we are dealing with. Longitudinal or tensile stress, it is applied force per unit area. Then volume stress or bulk stress. So deforming force that produces change in volume of the body. So that force per unit area is called volume stress. So if force is applied per unit area, that will give you pressure. So volume stress will nothing but be pressure. Then shearing stress. So I told you tangential force. Tangential force means you can see the arrow marks here. So this represents tangential force. So this one represents tangential force. So if you apply tangential force, there will be a shearing strain. Shearing strain is given by this theta. Suppose if x is the displacement and this is L, you can write theta is equal to x by L. This gives you shearing strain. So this is strain. Stress is again tangential force per unit area, right? So these things just now we discussed. So strain is change in dimension to original dimension. So it's a dimensionless ratio. You know it. Remember this always. Strain produces stress, not the other way. Okay. So stress will be developed in a deformed body. So strain is produced in a stress is produced in a strained body, not the other way. When there is a strain, there will be stress. Right? Yes. So there are three kinds of strain. Longitudinal strain, that is delta L by L. This you have taken. It is also called as tensile strain. Bulk strain or volume strain. This is delta V by V. Then shearing strain. So I told you it is theta, relative displacement of any layer divided by its distance from the fixed layer. Right? So using tan theta is approximately equal to theta, you can write theta as some x by L. So these things we had just discussed. Now coming to elastic limit. So maximum stress from which elastic body recovers to its original state and removal of deforming force, that is called elastic limit. So beyond elastic limit, the deformation done will be permanent. So body will not completely regain its original shape and size. Just make a note of it. And it is constant for a given material. It varies from one material to another material. Notice one thing, elastic limit is a stress. It's not force. It is stress. Yes, hope you have taken this. Shall move on to next. Coming to Hooke's law. According to Hooke's law, within elastic limit, the ratio of stress to strain for a given material is constant, or stress is proportional to strain. Notice one thing, stress is proportional to strain. So stress by strain is constant. This constant is called modulus of elasticity. So it is property of the given material. It varies from one material to other material. So if elastic modulus is more, then we say it is more elastic. It means that greater stress is required to produce given strain. Unit is Newton per meter square or Pascal, same as that of stress, because strain is dimensionless. Make a note of it. Yes, hope you have taken this. Shall move on to next. Types of elastic modulus. First one is Young's modulus. Young's modulus is longitudinal stress or tensile stress divided by longitudinal strain. Make a note of it. Yes, hope you have taken this. Next. So, if weight is added to stretch the wire, then Young's modulus can be mgl by pi r square delta L. No need to take this. Same thing they have expressed in terms of weight. That's all. So, just to have the comparison, Young's modulus of aluminum is 7.1 into 10 power 10, steel 20 into 10 power 10, glass 7 into 10 power 10, brass 7 into 10 power 10, rubber 1 into 10 power 6. See, Young's modulus of steel is 10 power 5 times the rubber. So this means steel is 10 power 5 times harder to stretch than rubber. Right? So this is just for information. Just to have comparative study. Right. So coming to shear modulus or rigidity modulus, it is shear stress to shear strain ratio. So it is denoted by eta. Eta is F by A theta. Note on this. Yes. Hope you have taken this. Coming to bulk modulus. Bulk modulus is bulk stress by bulk strain. So bulk stress is nothing but pressure divided by strain. See, for bulk modulus, the symbol is B, and there is minus P divided by delta V by V, because if pressure increases, volume decreases. So that's why there is negative sign. So when P is positive, delta V is negative. So negative of negative will become positive. Make a note of this. Yes. Hope you have taken this. Next, compressibility is denoted by K. It is reciprocal of bulk modulus. Make a note of it. So this will give you the idea how readily the material can be compressed. Yes, hope you have taken this. So compressibility of solids is less than that of liquids, which is less than that of gases. So gases are highly compressible due to least intermolecular forces. Yes. So coming to stress strain curve for elastic material. So if you plot the graph of stress versus strain, let us say we have a wire suspended from ceiling and weight is added to stretch the wire. So in such a case, if you go on increasing the weight, stress in the wire goes on increasing and strain in the wire also goes on increasing. So if you plot the graph of stress versus strain, so resulting curve is called stress strain graph. So stress strain graph will be like this. So note on this. So stress is along y axis, strain is along x axis. Yes, hope you have taken this. See this. If you plot the graph of stress versus strain, so first stress will be directly proportional to strain up to certain point called proportional limit. So beyond this, if we increase the stress, the line will deviate. It will not be a straight line. Stress will not be proportional to strain. But what happens if you remove the load at that time? The material comes back to original value, original shape and size. So stress corresponding to this, it is called elastic limit. Elastic limit. So up to this, it behaves elastically. Then beyond this point B, the material starts yielding up to point D. That means the deformation done here will be permanent. So all the deformation cannot be completely recovered. So whatever the deformation is produced at some arbitrary point C, let us say, if you remove the load, at least 1% of permanent deformation will be there. So material will not come back to original dimensions. So beyond this, whatever region is there, it's a plastic region. So there is no tendency to recover original shape and size. Beyond this, at point D, what happens? This is the maximum stress the material can withstand without breaking. So this is called ultimate strength. It is called ultimate strength, sigma U, it is denoted by. So at ultimate strength, what happens? At this point, it's a very delicate equilibrium. At this point, if you decrease load or increase load, in both the cases, the material will start yielding indefinitely. Yielding means simply it goes on expanding and material ultimately breaks. So fracture occurs at some point E. So this E is called fracture point, right? E is called fracture point. Just mark these things. Yes, hope you have taken this. So this portion BD is called plastic region. So O to B is elastic region. Now, this is the same description. Coming to the concept of elastomers. So there are some substances like rubber or tissues which can be stretched to cause very large strain, but yet possess elastic properties with the property of regaining their initial shape and size. But the graph of stress versus strain will never be a straight line. Such materials are called elastomers. So typical example is vulcanized rubber, so which is stretched over 7 times its original length. So if you draw the graph will be like this. So while stretching, it goes along one path, while coming back, it comes along another path. So work done along forward path, work done along backward path are not equal. So forces involved here are non-conservative. So this is called elastic hysteresis. Just make a note of this graph. Just like we have magnetic hysteresis, we have elastic hysteresis also. Right. So next we have Poisson ratio. So when you stretch a wire, its length increases. Its length increases means you're not creating the material. So its length increases at the cost of its thickness. So there'll be strain in the sideways direction. Sideways means lateral directions. So the ratio of lateral strain to longitudinal strain is called Poisson's ratio. It is denoted by sigma. So it is given by delta d by d divided by delta L by L, where d is diameter and L is length. See, when length increases, diameter decreases. That's why there is negative sign. So negative of negative becomes positive. So it will be a constant like Young's modulus, bulk modulus, and other elastic moduli. Note on this. For a given material, it will be constant. Yes. Hope you have taken this. Now coming to energy stored in a wire. So if you consider a elastic wire of length L, then if you stretch this wire, then there will be elongation. So there will be strain produced. So when strain is produced, there will be, yes, this is fine. When strain is produced, so there will be restoring forces. So restoring forces within elastic limit will be conservative. So when the forces are conservative, there will be potential energy. So there will be some energy stored in the material, energy stored in the elongated wire. So when you have strained body, there will be elastic potential energy stored. So energy density, that is energy per unit volume, is given by half into stress into strain, or half into stress square by Y, where Y is Young's modulus, or you can make substitution half into Y into strain square. So make a note of these things. Energy density, this is energy per unit volume, is this, or even this. You can prove this. There is a derivation for it. Derivation is not needed now. Yes. Hope you have taken this. See, suppose if you want to calculate energy, multiply this by volume, you will get energy. This is energy density. Energy density means energy per unit volume. Right? Yes. Now coming to next concept, that is thermal stress. So now suppose if we have a rod which is locked between two walls, two rigid walls. So now if you heat it, then it tends to expand, but because of the walls, it is not allowed to expand. So if it is not allowed to expand, then what happens? There will be stress developed. So that stress is called thermal stress. It is given by Y alpha delta T, where delta T is rise in temperature. See, this is stress. F by A is stress. So alpha is what? Coefficient of thermal expansion. And Y is, of course, Young's modulus. Note down this. So that is all about this elasticity. Now we shall take up fluids. So first thing, differences between solids and fluids. So fluid has ability to flow. So liquids and gases come under fluids. Solid has definite shape. Fluid has no definite shape, but it has volume. So solids and liquids have definite volume at given temperature, but gases do not have definite volume also. They occupy the volume of the entire container. So these things are known to you. Then solids and liquids are having low compressibility. Gases are highly compressible. Liquids offer very little resistance to shear stress. So in the case of solids, shear stress can change the shape of the liquid. In case of liquids and gases, you cannot define shear stress only. So there is no question of shear modulus. So ideal fluid is the one which is incompressible, right? Just make a note of the last point. Right. Hope you have taken this. Now coming to fluids at rest. So whenever you have a fluid at rest, so if there is any surface, which is in contact with it, fluid exerts force in the direction normal to it or perpendicular to the surface, irrespective of orientation of the surface. So this force normal force acting on the surface is called fluid thrust. Right? There cannot be any other component. Force has to be normal. So the total perpendicular force exerted by liquid at rest on a surface in contact with it is called thrust of the liquid on that surface. So make a note of this. Thrust is a vector, its force, so it is measured in Newton. Yes, hope you have taken this. Coming to pressure, pressure is thrust per unit area. See, pressure is a scalar. It is measured in Newton per meter square or Pascal. So liquid at rest exerts pressure on all the surfaces in contact with it. Just make a note of it. Yes, hope you have taken this. So even though thrust is a scalar, thrust is a vector, pressure is a scalar. So pressure doesn't depend on any direction. Now coming to relative density, make a note of this. Relative density of a substance is ratio of density of substance to density of water at 4 degrees Celsius. Make a note of it. Only this much is sufficient. Don't take this. Yes, hope you have taken this. Yes, it's not needed. So some facts about fluid pressure. So liquid exerts downward pressure, upward pressure, and also sideways pressure. So ultimate conclusion is, so it exerts pressure in all possible directions. In all directions, it will exert pressure. Right? So if we calculate the force exerted by a fluid at a depth, it is given by P is equal to rho g h. Just make a note of this. Only formula if you note down, that is sufficient. Derivation is not needed. Shall move on to next. Coming to variation of pressure with depth. So we can prove that pressure at a depth is given by P is equal to P naught plus rho g h, or atmospheric pressure if it is PA plus rho g h, or P2 minus PA is equal to rho g h, or better write it as P is equal to P naught plus rho g h, where rho is density, g is acceleration due to gravity, and h is depth, not height, it is depth. P naught is atmospheric pressure. Make a note of it. Derivation is not needed. Yes. Hope you have taken this. Let's move on to next. Coming to Pascal's law. So Pascal's law says that if there is increase in pressure at one point in a liquid enclosed in a container, the increase in pressure is transmitted equally to every point of the liquid and to the walls of the container, provided effect of gravity is neglected. Make a note of this. So at one point, if you increase the pressure, so everywhere it gets increased. Yes. Hope you have taken this. Coming to applications of Pascal's law, it is used in hydraulic lift. So it is used to lift heavy loads. So on the left hand side, whatever we have, this will be a piston where small force F1 is applied and heavy load to be lifted like car will be on the other side, and there is a U-tube connecting them filled with a fluid. Generally, it will be a oil. So when you apply a small force here, and this area is also small, force here is, pressure here is F1 by A1, then same pressure appears here according to Pascal's law. So that will produce pressure F2 by A2. So A2 is greater than A1. So F1 by A1 is equal to F2 by A2. So F2 will be A2 by A1 into F1. Clearly A2 by A1 is greater than 1. So F2 will be greater than F1. So A2 by A1, if it is 100, if area of second piston is 100 times the area of first piston, then the force becomes 100 times the applied force. So it acts as a force magnifier. It acts as a force magnifier. Yes, hope you have taken this. Next, coming to hydraulic brakes. So in case of hydraulic brake, there will be a master cylinder which is connected to all the wheels through secondary cylinders. So if pressure in master cylinder is changed, pressure in all other cylinders will be simultaneously changed. So it produces uniform braking effect so that all the wheels will experience same deceleration. So braking effect will be smooth. See, here is master cylinder. Here brake oil will be fixed. So if you press this brake pedal, then there'll be a tube. So here there'll be another piston, another cylinder here, wheel cylinder. So brake shoes S1 and S2, they press against the rim, and hence the braking effect is produced. Now the advantage of this is whatever at what moment this brake starts acting, so this will be connected to other wheels also. At all the wheels, the pressure is changed at the same time, and braking effect will be smooth. So every wheel decelerates to the same extent. Right? This is about hydraulic brakes. Now let us take a few MCQs. It doesn't make any difference whether it is having greater area or lesser area. What matters is only pressure. Generally, all of them will be same. All of them will be of same dimensions. Wheel cylinder as well as master cylinder. Right. Now coming to problems. So let us take up few problems. So tomorrow we'll continue with the synopsis about fluid dynamics, surface tension and viscosity. So before that, let us solve few MCQs. A wire can be broken by applying a load of 20 kg weight. Force required to break the wire of twice the diameter is. So if diameter is doubled, what happens to area? So what happens to breaking force? See, for a given material, breaking stress is constant. It is like Young's modulus. Breaking stress is breaking force divided by area. This is constant. So F1 by A1 should be equal to F2 by A2, or F2 should be equal to A2 by A1 into F1. Correct? So A2 by A1 can be written as D2 by D1 whole square into F1. Correct? Where D is diameter. So area is proportional to diameter square, pi d square by 4. See, area of cross section is pi d square by 4. Pi and 4 get cancelled, so I'll directly write D2 by D1. So D2 is twice that of d1. So it should be 2 by 1. So 2 square is 4. Should be 4 times F1. F1 is given 20 kg weight. So F2 should be 4 times 20. That is 80 kg weight. See, what is constant is not the breaking force. It is breaking stress that is constant for the given material. Okay, note of it. Yes, hope you have taken this. Wow, pi is there in both numerator and denominator must get cancelled, no? For both the areas, formula is same, right? Pi d square by 4 only. Yes. Okay, I've taken this. We'll move on to next. A load versus elongation graph for 4 wires of the same material is shown in figure. Thinnest wire is represented by the line. So which wire is thinnest? OC, OD, OA, OB. They were given they are of same material. So Young's modulus is FL divided by A delta L. So F by delta L, if I take, that should give you Y into A divided by L. So F by delta L is what? This will give you slope of this curve. See, load versus elongation. This is load, this is elongation. Y by X will give you slope. So that should be Y by L into A. A is what? Pi r square, right? Or if area is more, then slope will be more. So whichever has highest slope, that has highest radius. So slope is proportional to thickness, right? Highest slope is for OD. So this should be thickest wire, right? This should be thickest wire. So lowest slope is for OA, right? So thinnest wire is with lowest slope or least slope. Least slope is for what? OA. Note down this. Yes. Hope you have taken this. Shall move on to next. Length of an elastic string is A meter when the tension is 4 Newton and B meter when tension is 5 Newton. Length in meter when the tension is 9 Newton is. Yes. So length of the string is A meter when 4 Newton force is applied, and when 5 Newton force is applied, length becomes B. That means when you increase the force by 1 Newton, so length increases by final minus initial, B minus E. Correct? So for 1 Newton increase in force, length increases by B minus A. So you need to calculate length in meter when tension is 9 Newton. When tension is 9 Newton. What happens? Increase in tension is how much? Increase in tension is, originally it was 4, now it became 9. So it should be 9 minus 4, that is equal to 5 Newton. So for 1 Newton, if the elongation is B minus A, for 5 Newton, elongation should be equal to 5 times B minus A. For every 1 Newton, it increases by B minus A. So for 5 Newton, it should be 5 into B minus A. So final length should be equal to, originally it was A meter plus 5 into B minus A. That will be A plus 5B minus 5A, that is equal to 5B minus 4A. So it must be option B. Right? See, notice one thing, for within elastic limit, so more is the force, more should be the elongation, they should be directly proportional. For 1 Newton increase, if the elongation is B minus A, for 5 Newton increase, it should be 5 times B minus A. Yes, hope you have taken this. Yes, hope you have taken this. Shall move on to next. A vessel contains liquid of density rho as shown in figure. Gauge pressure at the point P is. Gauge pressure means only rho GH you have to take, not the atmospheric pressure. See, what matters for calculation of pressure is this distance. So if this height is h, this is h, so this should be h minus h, correct? Now pressure at point P depends on only depth. Remember, depth should be measured from the top surface, not from the bottom. Height is measured from the bottom, but depth should be from the top. So what should be pressure? Gauge pressure should be rho g into h minus h. That is option C. Right? It doesn't depend on shape of the vessel, so no need of taking cos theta and all. Pressure is a scalar. Why do you take component for pressure? Shall move on to next. A tank 5 meter high is half filled with water and then filled to the top with oil of density 0.85 gram per centimeter cube. Pressure at the bottom of the tank due to these liquids is. So let us say a tank height is h. So to half, water is filled to the height h by 2. Then remaining half is filled with oil. This is also h by 2. Now pressure at the bottom will be pressure due to oil plus pressure due to water. So pressure should be rho W into G h by 2 plus rho of oil into G into h by 2. So that will be G h by 2 into rho W plus rho oil. Now substitute and simplify. So this will be 5 meter 10 into 5 divided by 2. Yes, they have given in gram per centimeter cube. So everything is given in CGS unit. Look at the options also. So what I will do, I'll substitute this 5 meter. Yes, G is also held as it is. So I'll not substitute for G. So foot per centimeter square they have given. gram force per centimeter square. So I'll put it in grams only. So G is what? G only. H is, so 500 centimeter divided by 2 into water density is 1 gram per centimeter cube. Oil density is 0.85 gram per centimeter cube. Now we'll get it to be 500 by 2, that will be 250 into 1.85. 250 into 1.85 should be this only. It cannot be this. Cannot be this. Right? So it should be 462.5 gram force per centimeter square. So just like kg weight, this is in CGS system. Right? So it should be Newton per meter square or kg weight per meter square. So here it becomes gram force per centimeter square. Okay, note of it. And please note down today's homework. Homework is question numbers 1 to 10 in homework questions. You'll be able to solve one more question today. A piston of cross-section area 100 centimeter square is used in a hydraulic press to exert a force of 10⁻⁷ dyne on water. The cross-sectional area of the other piston which supports the object having mass 2000 kg is. They have given force in dyne on one side and they are expecting answer in centimeter square. Yes, simple one. So it's a hydraulic lift or hydraulic press, both will be one and the same. So F2 by A2 should be equal to F1 by A1, which implies A2 is F2 by F1 into A1. See, A2 should be greater than A1. Now, F2 is 2000 kg it is. So convert it to Newton. So it will be 2000 into 10 Newton. Correct? So I have to convert it to dyne into 10 to the power 5. See, 1 Newton is 10 power 5 dynes. So remember last year you had this in units and measurements. Right? Divided by F1 is what? 10 to the power 7 dynes. Into A1 is 100 centimeter square. Keep it in centimeter square only, you will get the answer in centimeter square. Right? So both numerator and denominator are in dynes. So this will be 3, 4, 9. 9 divided by 7. So it will be 10 to the power 2. So 200 into 100. That will be 2 into 10 to the power 4 centimeter square. That is option C. Make a note of it. One should be careful with the units here. Right. Yes. So we shall stop here. We shall continue in the next class. Thank you. Thanks for joining. Tomorrow we'll continue.